Welcome back to More Than the DCEU Daily, and welcome back to Movies TV Mad. I am Mick, your host with the most. Just ask your girlfriends, wives, and especially your boyfriends, and your husbands. So welcome. You can follow me on X, Twitter at Movies TV Mad, and on Instagram and on Threads at Movies TV Mad. X on Snapchat, BMouse60, and on TikTok, Mad Mickey's World. So welcome to More Than the DCEU Daily. I wanted to make this show today because I love talking about DC film and television on a daily basis. But my interest levels in entertainment go beyond DC films and television. I grew up watching a great varied amount of television and films as a kid, a young adult in my 20s, 30s, and even my 40s. And at some point on this channel, I want to be talking and reviewing those old movies and TV shows. We're not going to be doing that today. We're going to talk about DC. But predominantly today, after that, I want to talk about Doctor Who. I'm a huge Doctor Who fan. I'm very, very wounded with what's happened to it. But it really is kind of what's going on around all entertainment. So Doctor Who is no different to that. So we will get into what's gone wrong with Doctor Who and what, if any, future it may have. But first of all, whether or not you're a Zack Snyder fan, whether you love him or you deeply despise him, the one thing none of you can deny that Zack Snyder's creative heart is in the right place. He wants to give you art. He wants you to have this connection to his art. I love the way he has beautiful, loud scores. I love the way that he tries to, create this visual medium of storytelling. I love the way he uses CGI as a paintbrush. He just is a beautiful artist. He trained in London at the art school heavily, so he's an artist. And he believes in art. And that's how his films are made. Some people believe his films are too serious, that he takes his films too seriously and his art too seriously. Some people are from the Kevin Feige and James Gunn school of villainy, that everything must be soulless content, where every serious moment is taken away, and dramatic moment, by a gag or a joke. I'm not one of those people. By the way, I love early Marvel Cinematic Universe. I love early MCU. Iron Man. Iron Man 2 is not a great movie, but I can still enjoy it. Captain America, the first Avenger. Captain America 2. Captain America Civil War, right? Captain America 2. Captain America the Winter Soldier, whatever it's called, yeah? Great movie. That moment you realise the Winter Soldier is Bucky, because I haven't read any Marvel comics. That was a great twist. I loved it. I loved the Incredible Hulk. I loved Ang Lee's Hulk. Ang Lee's Hulk wasn't actually part of the MCU. I love Bryan Singer's X-Men. There's a lot of Marvel I love. I'm not really a Marvel guy. But the early Marvel movies, Raimi's Spider-Man movies, even Spider-Man 3, loved them, right? So I loved all that. But then something happened to the Marvel Cinematic Universe. From Avengers onwards, it became successful. And it was making lots of money. And it was beloved by general audiences. So because Avengers made so much money, it became about cameos and Easter eggs rather than telling the stories the original Phase 1 Marvel movies were actually doing. And for me, that's when it became a bit stained. But still, they were making quite entertaining films. And then came Phase 4 and Phase 5, and that modern new Hollywood, modern English-speaking Western entertainment problem began. They started telling us that representation mattered. But how does representation matter, everyone, when you read the end credits of your movies and your TV shows, and all the people have entertainment DNA, even the ones who look diverse? There's no representation or diversity in English-speaking Western entertainment. They lied to you. They lied that representation matters because their front doors are closed to outsiders. Their front doors are shut to film school graduates, graphic design graduates. Only people with Hollywood DNA, right, are allowed in the front door. We've got this issue with Nepo babies. I'm quite supportive of Nepo babies. I'm friends with a lot of Nepo babies. I'm fine with talented Nepo babies when you ain't got the talent. Because these days the Nepo babies ain't that talented. You know, don't forget we were going from Kirk Douglas to Michael Douglas. Look what we've got now. So Nepo babies made sense. The industry being enclosed to its own DNA back in old Hollywood made sense because everyone was so fucking talented. And the environment was, if we entertain them, they're going to be happy to give us their money. It was logical. It's not logical anymore. As I've said before, it's like me taking over Willy Wonka's chocolate factory and not knowing his secret ingredient. Not wanting the kids to taste lovely, yummy chocolate. Wanting them to taste bland, shitty chocolate and being offended when they won't give over their money. It's the same analogy. It's the same meaning. I'm not excited by DC movies and television anymore. It's as simple as that. I was excited during the build-up for Superman Returns. I was excited by Smallville. I was obsessed with Smallville. I'm still obsessed with Smallville. Superman and Lois was great. Gunn cancelled it because he was intimidated by how great it was. I loved early Arrowverse. DC was an exciting place, but it's not an exciting place now because it's all about false hype and fake slates and empty, soulless content. Creature Commandos, Superman, all empty, soulless content. There wasn't any semblance of art in that streaming show Creature Commandos or Superman. And I'll go on record saying it as I did at the beginning, after I first saw Superman. Superman by James Gunn is the worst Superman film ever fucking made. And I will not move away from that. He plays with some interesting themes. Most of the themes he plays with, he stole from Zack Snyder and Dick Donner. There's not very much originality. We've got the Justice Gang because that's what he's interested in, groups of people, right? That's all he can do. And he did it here. He didn't step outside himself. He had no motivation to make a great Superman movie. We know how extreme left on the political argument James Gunn is, and it's all there to be seen, as we saw in Peacemaker 2. He got the mallet and he was hitting us over the head. Because they don't know how to make good social commentary in entertainment anymore. Go back and rewatch Highway to Heaven. Go back and rewatch Quantum Leap. Go back and rewatch Little House on the Prairie. Social commentary, so much of it. I mean, Little House on the Prairie, Quantum Leap and Highway to Heaven were as woke as you could get. But there's a difference between good woke and bad woke. Woke isn't a bad thing when the people's hearts are in the right place and they have the talent to not smash you over the head with their social commentary, right? So many shows that we loved and films of old had great social commentary, but it wasn't in your face. You weren't being hammered. You weren't being told if you believe a certain thing, then you're a bad person. You weren't being told if you were straight and white that you were fucking, if that's, you know, male and pale was fucking stale. The industry has been taken over by lunatics. It's run by the wrong people at the wrong time. And how are they going to fix the fact that they're on the verge of fucking bankruptcy? Some of them are already at bankruptcy. Paramount had to be sold because they were bankrupt. They were mismanaged. A great fucking studio of years gone by. Warner Brothers, one of the first studios ever created. You know, brought forward by two brothers, the Warner Brothers. That studio is nothing like the dream that those Warner Brothers had for that fucking studio. It's been mismanaged to hell. And now they're having to sell it. Who they sell it to, I don't know. If they sell it in bits and pieces, I don't know. You don't know. Nobody fucking knows. We're going to have to wait and see. So no, I'm not excited by DC film and television anymore because the motivation isn't to give us great movies and television. It's just to give us empty and soulless content. Now, let's talk about one of my favourite television shows of all time, Doctor Who. That's my real motivation by doing a show called More Than the DCEU Daily, so I can talk about Doctor Who. Wow, Russell T Davies. He came back and he revitalised Doctor Who in 2005. I remember the great story he told everyone about approaching Jane Tranter at a party. She was pregnant. He wanted to ask permission to bring back Doctor Who. He was nervous. She was pregnant. He didn't want to interrupt her. He asked her and she goes, "It's you, Russell, of course." And he brought it back in such a wonderful way. He took a cult show with a small cult audience and made it a global success. And Stephen Moffat took that and made it even more of a global success, especially in America. Doctor Who broke America. Now, Classic Who had a small audience in America because I have friends. I grew up, with American friends when I was in LA when my father was working in Hollywood for a movie studio. They loved Doctor Who even back then. But these two men took it to another fucking level. So what Russell T Davies did by bringing back Doctor Who was amazing. No, you can't rewrite history and say, well, Russell T Davies' episodes were never that good anyway because he wrote about the Slovene who fired. No, that was great. That was written for children, and that was great, and it worked. Russell T Davies wrote fucking Midnight, for fuck's sake. Shut the fuck up. I'm not going to go back in history just because Russell T Davies came back to destroy Doctor Who. He did that. Russell, you did that. You came back to destroy Doctor Who. You know why, Russell? Because you're a left-winger, maybe even a socialist, I don't know. But you're angry. You're angry what's happened to the world. You were angry at the time that Boris Johnson was Prime Minister, as was I. That people like Nigel Farage exist. That President Trump is the American president. I'm not happy about that either. And it's your belief, and a lot of people at the BBC's, and probably at Disney as well, that you believe the predominant political persuasion of Doctor Who fans is right-wing. And yes, Doctor Who has a lot of right-wing, straight white male fans, without a question. I am not right-wing, but if you're right-wing, good luck to you, right? I agree to disagree with people. That's the point. So he came back to destroy something that right-wing Doctor Who fans loved. That's why he came back. That's what his motivation was, to hurt right-wing Doctor Who fans. This was the same motivation from Chris Chibnall. It's the very reason he created the elephant in the room, the Timeless Children. The Timeless Children on its own is an interesting concept, but it wasn't created to be an interesting concept. It was, oh well, Doctor Who never treated women very well, or it wasn't very diverse back in the 60s, 70s and 80s. So let's go back and rewrite history and have a few diverse versions of the Doctor. They won't have the personality the Doctor's always had. We're just going to go through the motions and say, oh, look, let's do some check boxes. That's all the Timeless Children was about. But don't get it twisted. The storyline was interesting and could have been made interesting. I can take over Doctor Who right now. I can save Doctor Who. I've explained how I would do it. And you would have two decisions to make, wouldn't you? You either embrace the Timeless Children and you let the Doctor go on this amazing mission to discover his roots, or her roots, or their roots, or whoever you want to choose as that current Doctor. I want to run Doctor Who and I want to play the Doctor. I have a vision for the show. My decision would be this: to embrace the Timeless Children, which would upset the fans because obviously it rewrites that William Hartnell isn't the first Doctor. Look, the majority of fans hate the Timeless Children, but the right-wing, straight white male fans that Chibnall and RTD hate it. That's what makes RTD and Chibnall happy. That's what gets them up in the morning. That you guys are upset by that storyline. The more they upset you, the better. They want to drive you out of Doctor Who. And they've succeeded. They've driven you out from watching Doctor Who. You despise it because of what it stands for. I despise it because it hurts something. Because you didn't just hurt Russell, you didn't just hurt the straight white males and the right-wing fans, you hurt all of us. Because believe it or not, Russell, the majority of Doctor Who fans are not all racist. Just because you're right-wing, it doesn't mean you're bigoted or racist, right? Or want your country back. They're not all like that. The loud voices on the internet are like that, and they've made you angry. So you came back, Russell, to hurt those people and to destroy Doctor Who. And you succeeded in doing so. But when you look in the mirror now, Russell, how do you feel? That you destroyed a show that you loved. You destroyed something that you helped build so magnificently. And it's interesting when I think of the people who destroyed Doctor Who. I don't think of Stephen Moffat. There's something about Moffat. You know, obviously there's some episodes and there's some kind of lines of dialogue that people call woke in the Moffat era of Doctor Who, but I don't care about that. Stephen has always come across as someone who believes in his stories, who loves Doctor Who, even when he wasn't making Doctor Who anymore, and he went through a torrid time with the fans. I mean, he was getting death threats, his family were getting threatened, it was disgusting, he had to come off Twitter. But Moffat is a genius as far as I'm concerned. I mean, most fans get very angry at the hint of a rumour that Moffat's coming back to run Doctor Who. And he said, listen, I don't want to run it again anyway, leave me the fuck alone. You know, it's somebody else's turn. I don't think he'd put himself through that, but funnier things have happened. I'm one of the few Doctor Who fans who wouldn't be upset if he returned. Because I believe he loves telling stories, and I actually believe that his era of Doctor Who is fantastic. And when he first started becoming the showrunner of Doctor Who, I didn't appreciate his era. It was so dramatically different. The TARDIS was different. The Doctor was so different. The companion dynamics were different. I was so in love with RTD and what he did with Tennant and Eccleston and Piper and beyond that I was resistant because it was different. But then eventually I realised what Stephen Moffat was doing was absolutely fucking wonderful. An episode like Hell Bent that none of us appreciated at the time was all about the Doctor not being able to say goodbye to a companion. The Doctor doesn't like to say goodbye. The Doctor doesn't like endings, as River Song told a companion. That's what Hell Bent is always about. He teased this big epic finale in Gallifrey. We wanted that, we didn't get that. We got something else. But when I rewatch Hell Bent now, I understand what he was doing and I appreciate it. So I don't actually think Stephen Moffat is part of the problem. But Chris Chibnall was part of the problem. And Russell T Davies in the end was part of the problem. But I will always love him and appreciate him for bringing back Doctor Who in such a fabulous way. I do not hate Russell T Davies. I don't hate anyone. Hate only hurts the haters. I don't hate anyone in the industry. I hate what they've done to my beloved industry. An industry that I grew up around, an industry my father worked in. You know, it does break my heart when I see the lack of belief in making something artistic, not giving an audience a personal connection to a piece of storytelling or a character. It's just become so soulless and so meaningless, and that is very upsetting to me. And Russell T Davies did kill Doctor Who. He did it. He brought it back so wonderfully. He created the modern day version of Doctor Who, then he killed it. Now we have to talk about the future of Doctor Who. Sorry about that, everyone, but a big skip just drove past my room and it was just putting me off my concentration. So I hope you can still hear me talking. It's so fucking annoying. Anyway, let's get back to talking about Doctor Who. Let's talk about the future of Doctor Who. Because right now, nobody knows, outside of the BBC, and maybe the BBC don't even know what to do, what's going to happen. So what I want to do is talk to you about my thought process behind this. We all know that it's been ruined, that the audiences were shrinking and shrinking and shrinking and shrinking. It's the opinions of many Doctor Who fans that Doctor Who should have a long hiatus. In fact, is it Robert Sherman who wrote on New Who back in 2005? Did Robert Sherman write that amazing episode called Dalek? I think it was him, wasn't it? He said Doctor Who is as dead as a dodo, and it's pretty much on a long hiatus. Now, I'm not sure that I believe that Doctor Who isn't coming back, because the BBC claim that Doctor Who is very, very important to them. So they claim that the Doctor Who isn't gone. The reality is, at this moment in time, there isn't any plans for a new series of Doctor Who. Now, there was a spin off scheduled, I forgot what it was called. They showed us a trailer of a spin off which was going to be very much connected to RTD2, which was meant to air this year, but they delayed it to next year. That's a fact. I have a theory that we may never see that Doctor Who spin off. Let's see if I'm right about that. I believe that Russell T Davies will not be coming back to run Doctor Who. The problem is, Russell and his people, and Julie Gardner, Jane Tranter. I think I said Julie. Did I say Julie Tranter earlier on? It's Jane Tranter. But yeah, all those people, Phil Collinson, have got a stranglehold on Doctor Who. I've said it for years. What's got to happen is that these talented Doctor Who fans who are working on the show when the show came back need to let go of it, move away, and we need new, younger people running Doctor Who. The people who grew up and fell in love with Doctor Who through RTD's and Moffat's revival. We need new creatives. If it's not going to be me, and it's not going to be me playing the Doctor and running Doctor Who, that's my dream. I'd love to do it, and I think I could do it effectively. I'm an actor, I'm a writer, amateur actor, amateur writer, amateur director. I have a theatre here in Iron Apple, Cyprus, and we make plays. I come up with the concept of the plays. I allow the amateur dramatics, the other people part of my amateur dramatic society, to come up with their character backstories, come up with character names, and we have a lot of fun. All the plays are basically, we make it up. They're not written in scripts. We just make it up as we go along, and it's very, very exciting. But I do believe I could be a great Doctor. I do believe that I could make myself and you, because we're both Doctor Who fans, a great Doctor Who show. I believe that Doctor Who could be amazing again. Because you need someone who believes in the show, who believes in the character, and right now we don't have that. So I believe that RTD is history as a producer and showrunner. So Bad Wolf have to not be involved with Doctor Who. And I think these are the discussions going on. Because publicly RTD said that he had another 2 seasons story worth to do. He had another 2 seasons of stories to do. In a way, it's like publicly he's holding it hostage. Unless he's allowed to destroy Doctor Who even further, he won't allow anything to progress. Now, I had it under good authority before it was announced he came back, or he was coming back, that Sally Wainwright was going to run Doctor Who. Now, is it Sally Wainwright worked with, what's her name? I forgot her name. The girl who played Raquel in that cop show. Happy Valley, that's it. Sally Wainwright, I'm crap with names, right? Yeah. Sally Wainwright wrote and created Happy Valley with Sarah Lancashire, who played Raquel in Coronation Street. An almighty brilliant actress. Now, my understanding was that Sally was going to run Doctor Who, and Sarah Lancashire was going to play the Doctor. Now, I know some of you are opposed to a female Doctor. I'm not. I don't care if it's a one-legged leprechaun playing the Doctor. I don't care what colour, what culture is playing the Doctor. As long as the Doctor is the biggest personality in the room and the smartest person in the room, I don't care what demo is playing Doctor Who. They're my parameters around Doctor Who. The character has to be the loudest, brightest, unapologetic, biggest personality in the room and the smartest person in the room. And the reality is that Ncuti Gatwa's Doctor and Jodie Whittaker's Doctor were nowhere near that. They weren't playing the Doctor. They were playing some politically correct version of the Doctor. That's the problem. The way their Doctors were written is the problem. The problem wasn't that Ncuti Gatwa was a gay black man. I think he still is a gay black man, by the way. But you know what I mean? That wasn't the issue. My issue with Jodie Whittaker isn't that she's a woman, right? It's that she wasn't being played like the Doctor. And there's loads of interesting things that you could have written. With the Doctor being a woman for the first time, we could have seen the Doctor not being able to handle being a woman very well. Because it's different being a woman, right, from being a man all your life. But then I mean, through the Moffat era, they were trying to hint that the Doctor was a woman before. So, look, absolute nonsense. And if they actually pulled it off properly, it could have worked. So, you need Russell T Davies and Bad Wolf to be gone. There's no question about it. And I love James Tranter. I love Julie Gardner. I used to love what they stood for. And Russell T Davies, I used to love what he used to stand for. But they have to go because their hearts are no longer in the right place. They were. They absolutely were. Those first 5 years that RTD and Julie Gardner and Phil Collinson were working on Doctor Who, their hearts were absolutely in the right place. The way they treated Christopher Eccleston was disgusting, and we should have had a Christopher Eccleston as the Doctor for the whole of the RTD run. Obviously, I love David Tennant as the Doctor as well. So all those people have to go. And somebody new and vibrant who is still in love with Doctor Who has to take it over. And I'd rather the BBC run Doctor Who on their own rather than getting involved with some American studio like Disney. And I know a lot of you don't like the BBC, but they do own Doctor Who. So I'd rather them do it like that. If that means they have to have a lower budget, I'm quite happy to deal with that. And if I was the guy running it under a lower budget, I'd be happy with that. Because you can still tell great Doctor Who stories. So there we are. Now, do I think that Doctor Who is actually on hiatus, and how long will it be on hiatus for? Listen, this is the reality of the situation for the people in the back of the room who are obsessed with Doctor Who taking a hiatus because you're driven by your political opinions and things like that and what you think Doctor Who should be and shouldn't be. Look, here's the reality. Doctor Who makes the BBC, still makes the BBC a lot of money. There's a lot of money to be made from Doctor Who. The RTD and Moffat era proved that. You know, through merchandise, through physical media, digital media. Listen to me. Doctor Who is too valuable to the BBC to put on a long hiatus. This is not 1989. RTD and Moffat made, Doctor Who beyond the cult show. There's still an audience for Doctor Who. Recently that audience has been driven away, but people have short memories. If you make Doctor Who an exciting, brilliant, random police box travel show again, people will come. I believe I could get people to come to watch it again. So Doctor Who will take a short hiatus. I think you are looking around a 3 to 5 year hiatus, right? But in terms of the long-term goals for the BBC and Doctor Who, it has to come back. It can't go off the air for 20 years again, or however long it was off the air for. That's not going to happen. It's just far too valuable to the BBC. I hope you enjoyed more than the DCEU Daily. I will be back tomorrow with the actual DCEU Daily. Don't forget to like, share and subscribe. Tell the world about me, Mick Meanus.